Hello, hello. And welcome to this masterclass on the Traitors. Apologies for the slight delay. TFL presented a challenge to me this morning, which I thankfully overcame. Before we get started and chat with Toni and Sarah about all things Traitors, we do have the Slido app, which allows a Q&A functionality. So if you have any burning Traitors questions for our panelists today, please make liberal use of that functionality and I will lob those questions their way. So without further ado, we have a lot to get into with the Traitors. Now, I'll also warn you, I am a massive Traitors fangirl.
Yes,
I will try to temper that a bit, but it may sneak out.
We love it.
Yes. And today I'm joined by Toni Ireland and Sarah Fay, executive producers of The Traitors, who are here to lift the lid on Studio Lambert's massive success, The Traitors, which aired on BBC One at the end of last year. So I think the best place to start with The Traitors is the very beginning, because it's based on a Dutch format, Der Verraders.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Please don't check my Dutch there.
Yeah, well done. It's good pronunciation.
So can I ask, how did you come across the format, first of all? And of all the international formats that I'm sure cross your desk, what was it about this one that made you think, yes, this is something we can adapt for the UK?
Yeah, well, it was created by a company called IDTV in the Netherlands, who are great at coming up with these formats. We found it because IDTV is owned by All3, so are we, so it was presented to us via All3. And it wasn't myself or Sarah who saw it first, it was obviously Studio Lambert and our development team, and they loved it. And then they showed us the first episode, and we were instantly straight away. I think it's because it's just, and both series look very different when you look at them now, but just that psychological game, it was just, the game was instant. The players were instantly involved in that game, and it just, you couldn't stop watching once you started, and people throughout the office watched it as well, and we were watching it with subtitles, and these were Dutch celebrities, and we didn't know who they were, but we were still completely engaged in the show, and we knew that we wanted to make our own version.
And when it came to adapting the format, what changes did you make for the UK audience? You know, what did you add? What did you take away?
I think one of the biggest changes was actually we had a civilian cast, which we're one of the first territories to actually attempt the show with a civilian cast. So all the Dutch versions were with celebs, but we felt we wanted the game would feel better with or different with a cast who the money meant something more to them. How would they deal with it? Obviously, that's going to feel very different from celebrities playing. Another thing we wanted to do was, obviously, it was such a big show for the BBC that they wanted to bring on board, and we only have one chance at a new format, don't you? So we wanted to give it very high production value. So we really took a lot of time thinking about the look and the feel, and making it feel as much as possible like a cinematic drama. We always kind of wanted to make it feel as expensive as possible within the confines of a reality budget. That was one of the things that we really wanted to do. So that was via our specialist cameras, our look, our feel, our music, our set design.
Yeah, our location, and the format itself. What's really interesting is that IDTV, and rightly so, are so confident in this as a game. First and foremost, this show is a game, and there's rules, and the players know the rules, and when we took that on board, we totally appreciate that. Of course, we all walked in and go, right, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, and then we actually went over and watched a series being shot, and it was so interesting to see how well it all just worked brilliantly. So the format itself, we took virtually the same format, but then we added, so for example, we changed the end game. So the end game that had been used in the Netherlands and had been used in, I think, a couple of other territories, it didn't quite work for us. We felt like we could come up with a better end game that spoke to the overall game of the show of who's left at the end. Is there still a traitor amongst you? So that is something that we worked on and tried to crack, which ended up being our end game, which has since been rolled out in other territories as well. So that was one of the big format points that we changed, but everything else sort of sticks to the original format, the banishments, the round tables, the rhythm of the show is something that we took from them and that we learned from, because they'd made it before and it was brilliant. So, you know, you don't want to rip it all up and try and do your own thing when something works so fantastic.
Because I think the brilliance of the Traitors is it's such a simple concept. You know, we've all played games like that, but it's just on a much broader scale and with more people than I've ever played a game like that with Werewolf or Mafia. But the casting is something that has been lauded, because there's, as a viewer, I guess I've been a little bit jaded over the years, you know, when it comes to kind of adventure reality shows, there's certain personalities that kind of get cast again and again. And what I found so refreshing about the Traitors was that it was just so authentic. It was people from all over the corners. And, you know, who would have ever thought that a happy-go-lucky granny from the Welsh Valleys would prove to be so ruthless and cutthroat? So can I ask, how did you go about the casting? You know, was it personalities? Was it their own tactics, gameplay? Was it intergroup connections? How did the casting come about for it?
Well, I think first and foremost, you touched on it before, it's a tale as old as time, this format, that anybody can play, and all generations have enjoyed playing over the years. So that was very much the core of how we started our casting. We want this to be a game that anybody can play, any generation can play, any age range. And so we started from there, really, didn't we? We gave our casting team that kind of, you know, go out there and find the most brilliant characters you can from all walks of life. We're so proud of our cast, aren't we?
We love the casting. It's one of my favourite bits. I love doing the casting, and we get to meet them all, and we get to, you know, our casting team, the way it works is our casting team go out, they find people, they make a tape, they show us the tape, and then we go, and the people that we like the best, we do a finals with, where Sarah and I get to meet them all and throw questions at them, and, you know, are you really that person that you sold us? Scratch under the surface a little bit, really get to know them. And, you know, representation's really important to us, like not only like where you're from, your background, sexuality, everything like that. That's what we wanted to see represented. We wanted a cross-section of the UK on this show, and I think age is a really big thing as well, and I think sometimes older contestants can be overlooked, and there was nothing restrictive about the show. We knew even the missions, we knew we would adapt those to whoever we found in the cast so that everyone could take part in them. But it's really interesting when you're getting to meet people, you're already sussing, could they be a traitor, could they be a faithful, and what is going to make them good at either of those. And this cast had never seen the show, so they didn't really know exactly what they were signing up for. So it'll be different as we go into season 2, but this cast didn't know. And you meet someone like Amanda, and
we knew instantly.
She blew us away. Yeah, she's just so confident.
And I think, you know, you touched on it earlier as well about, you know, that authentic cast as well. We wanted, when we met them, we were always thinking about back of our minds, do we like this person? Would we want to go down the pub with them? We didn't want anybody you'd see on another type of show. We didn't want any wannabes, and that's, again, we're hoping for that in the future as well. We don't want people feel like they are multiple auditionees for all the reality shows out there. We want people who feel like normal people you could go down the pub with, who want to play a game. And so that was very much one of our things when we were auditioning.
And we're going to spend an hour a night with these people. You're going to spend a lot of time with them as well. They've got to be likeable. And it's like, of course we had areas of conflict, but the game will bring that out as well. You don't need to cast loads of villains. It wasn't about that. This is BBC One as well, and of course we made the American version, which is slightly different. But as BBC One, the cast needs to be warm. You've got to like them. You've got to be rooting for people, and whether you're a traitor or a faithful fan, it doesn't really matter. You've got to root for people to win, and it's about that warmth.
Because as you say, the format brings the spike and the drama itself, you know, so we don't need to inject that via our cast, like, in addition.
And I didn't know that this was one of the first editions to have an all-civilian cast.
Yeah.
What made you go the fully civilian route rather than having the celebrities dotted in among the cast?
I just think we love real people. We make shows with real people at Studio Lambert all the time. You know, Race Across the World. We used to work on The Circle, Gogglebox. We know the value in everyday people that people can connect with, and I think we didn't need to go down the celebrity route, and we didn't want to, and BBC One felt the same, our commissioners felt the same. It was about, this is real people playing a game, just like everyone else will be at home when they see what the show's like.
And you shot the US and the UK version up in the beautiful highlands of
Yes.
Scotland, the very
Gorgeous.
very luxurious-looking Scottish castle. How did you go about securing that location and deciding on Scotland to be the base to set the Traitors?
I suppose we're really lucky in the UK that we've got lots of castles, but we always knew we wanted this amazing, like, mystical castle. We were thinking Harry Potter. We were thinking Knives Out was a really big sort of thematic note that we got from both networks, actually, that this is going to be a murder mystery, and where better than in a beautiful castle. And we were really lucky, and then we went and explored a couple of places, and then we went to Ardros, and it just fit the bill perfectly because it's got the beautiful surroundings of the Highlands. It is just gorgeous. They were really up for filming. They were very amenable. They understood the project because you know, and we could dress the castle as well and put a lot into it and create the world that we want to create. I think other locations we could have gone bigger. We could have gone more sort of, I don't know, more museum-y, stately homey, but then you can be really restricted with locations, and we didn't want to feel like everyone was worried about touching a wall or anything like that. It was like they were really up for us creating the space that we want to, because of course we will always make good at the end and put everything back to how it was, and they're really happy.
And
so that's how we came
were
across
so
it.
lucky with that location as well.
Yeah.
That they'd never had any filming there
Yes.
previously. So we went up there, fell in love with it, as you can imagine, and then ding, 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 never been used before. Oh my goodness, it
Yeah.
really felt like such a stunning place that we could really make our own and make this magical world, which we wanted to immerse our cast in. And that's all key to
Yeah.
it, as well as you were saying, with, you know,
Yeah.
we wanted our cast to feel like they could enter this game, enter this world. They're in this immersive bubble, which we've spoken about before in other interviews as well. And that was so important to the game, that they could feel like they were living in the castle, could move around, could have their spiritual chats in the corner, and they didn't feel like they were on a set, but in beautiful surroundings where they're playing the game.
Yeah, even the long drive as they're coming, like you're coming to the castle to play the game, and this castle's waiting for you. It just had, it's making me really excited talking about it now. I was just like, I love this castle, and it had the grounds as well for us to do missions. So that was a really big thing, because one of our biggest challenges on the show was shooting schedule, and I'm sure we'll get on to that in a bit, but having all those grounds around it where we could do the missions was a massive plus as well. And it was isolated, you know, it was in the middle of nowhere, which is brilliant.
And moving on to the shooting, because the Traitors has nearly two types of storytelling going on. You've got the kind of high-octane, adrenaline-filled action challenges where they're out running around like headless chickens. And then you've also got the equally high stakes, but far more kind of cunning side, where it's all literally cloak and dagger, but hushed conversations, separated little huddles. So can you tell us about how you kind of approach the two of those styles of storytelling, but kind of balance them against each other as well, so that it all felt very holistic, rather than this is the action part and this is the more kind of hushed, whispered part?
Yes.
Well, first and foremost, the missions were a chance for the faithful and traitors, whether you're faithful or traitor, to come together to build money for the prize pot. And that was really important for us, that the traitors, it's so intense, as you can imagine, if you were a traitor, being in those kind of conspiritual chats constantly, always looking over your shoulder. And just in terms of storytelling, it was such a nice chance for the traitors to be able to come together with their fellow group and have that breath where they just can pretend to be a faithful and all working together. And we found actually that was a really amazing bonding time for all the cast together, which is always great. So then when the backstabbing does happen, it means even more, because they've had that chance to bond. If we found that if constantly it was those chats of who's a traitor, who's a traitor, who's a traitor, it would feel very one note across a narrative arc of an episode and a series.
Yeah.
So just in terms of storytelling and breadth for not only the cast but for an audience, we thought it was really important that we always had that within an episode. Say bonding, as well as the backstabbing, bonding is so key.
Yeah.
For the drama to happen.
Yeah.
And then in terms of look, on a basic level, obviously the other big format points are quite static, I suppose. The round table, as much as it's so filled with drama, they're essentially seated. So we wanted to always fill with the missions. That was our chance to get outside, to get them running around, to get them being physical if we could, to get them having some fun and some laughs and some humour, because there are such dark undertones also within the show. So we wanted to always make sure there was that juxtaposition between the two, and always that, was always within each episode. And an hour episode, you want to have that light and shade always.
Yeah. And I have a question around, filming certain scenes, because, they'd go off in their little huddles.
Yeah.
For example, the kiss of death, when the traitors had to choose who they were going to murder that night at the party, through giving a kiss, obviously unbeknownst to the victim.
Yeah.
How did you film that without drawing the rest of the group's attention to the fact that two of their number have just slid out? And how do you... And there have been other kind of hushed conversations between two or three people. How do you do that without the rest of the group being, well, all the film crew are following Will and Han over there. Let's go have a look.
Well, the conversation that Will and Amanda had was actually on the rig. So the crew never followed them, because we shot it all on the rig. So the crew never left the room. So it's quite what we took from the Dutch, and what we really wanted to do was a very light touch of the producer. So no cast member is ever said, right, can you three go and have a chat over there? We don't do that. And we do that on other shows, and we don't do it on this. So it is entirely up to them who they talk to and sort of where they go and chat. So the basic setup of our filming within the castle is that we have a rig of about 35 cameras, something like that, and then we have quite a large crew as well. So, for example, when we shoot the breakfast scene in the morning, we have the crew all on sticks, and we shoot that all on sticks in the breakfast room. And then once we've shot the breakfast, we break the cameras down, and we say put 2 cameras in the billiards, 2 in the library, and 2 outside, something like that. And then we just say to the cast, okay, you're free to go. And then off they go. We pick them up on the rig, and the rig's shooting down the corridors, so we get our moving around shots. And then they go and land, and then the crew pick them up there. And if they don't go into the room with the crew, then we move the crew to wherever they are, or something like that. So it's a very organic, natural way of filming their conversations. Initially, I was really worried with Brits that they would react really badly to a camera crew. I wasn't worried about the Americans, but having, we've worked on Big Brother, on Love Island, I'm a Celeb, everything like that. On Big Brother, it's all camera hides. They never see a camera, and so they forget that they're there. With this, we're putting crews right in front of their faces, and we're expecting them to have these chats. But they did, because they knew it from the start, and that's just the way that we shot things. We have, when you're watching a group of people, I won't lie, sometimes I used to go down to brief them on a certain format point, and I was so scared about who I was looking at. I was like, don't give anything away, don't give anything, and I would just read my notes, and I wouldn't look at any of them. And the crew were the same, they were just like, you're just in a room and you're filming, and you need to get the traitor, but you also need to film everybody else, because you never want to give anything away that you're pausing on a person for a certain amount of time. I mean, the kiss of death is a good example, because before that, the traitors would rarely speak to each other in public in Series 1. I think it'll be different in Series 2.
Amanda's downfall.
Which is Amanda's downfall. They rarely speak to each other, so you're just following the conversation. You're just following a group of people, and in all of our heads, everyone's faithful. We can never, worry about that. So that's sort of shooting. Rig, crew. We love it when we catch a conversation on the rig. It's the best feeling, because we were discussing how we were going to shoot it, and as well as making it more, raising the production values, more cinematic, beautiful cameras, got an amazing series director, Ben Archer, whose vision was realised completely, but we were pushing for the rig, because when you get those sort of quite awkward shots that aren't perfect, you just believe that conversation, you've just caught it, and it's not perfect, but it's real, and that's really exciting. That was really part of the show.
But I was just going to say, even if that conversation hadn't been picked up on the rig and there was a crew in there, because we'd set that from the off, that was the standard, that there were crews in every room, we weren't following them around, in terms of, you two have gone, we weren't producing them in that way. It would have felt completely normal for them, even if there was a crew in there. So we wanted to set a very clear standard from the top that they were all used to. So we would hopefully never get any accusations.
And and don't forget, we're pulling them for master interviews all the time. So that's that's part of it. So that people are always leaving rooms to go and do their master interviews, because that was a big challenge. How do you get through 22 people's master interviews every day to make sure that they're telling you what's happening privately? So that's a military operation, with the floor producers going, right, it's your turn now, go, and keeping that fair as well, so everyone felt like they had enough time in the reality time to defend themselves, to throw accusations. It was making sure it all felt fair as well.
And can we talk the logistics of the shooting? How long was the shoot, and did the cast have rest days, and what was the duty of care? I mean, who knew a breakfast scene would become so iconic? I mean, that was just... I think that was the most drama on TV in 2022.
It was amazing, wasn't it?
So how do you... But the fallout from that, I imagine, was probably, behind the scenes, was probably quite big. So can you talk us through the duty of care, and, what were the rest days like for the cast? Did they have rest days, and how long was the shoot?
Yeah. Well, initially we set out to film each episode over 2 days. And then when we went to the Netherlands to watch their version, they were quite insistent that we shot it each episode in a day. And of course, we make things differently over here. It was amazing when we went to watch them shooting. They were done by 10:30. They were all having a drink, and we were like, oh no, we like to work till 2 a.m. But we quickly realised that was part of the game, to keep the intensity up of the game. And to be honest, if the shoot had been twice as long, we would have lost the momentum. The cast would have been really tired, so it was better to shoot it quicker. So we used to shoot, it was 6 days and then a rest day is what we used to do. So 6 days and a rest day. On the rest day, the cast would just rest in their rooms, catch up on sleep. They wouldn't mingle, obviously. They would just stay, have a sleep, and then come back refreshed. A couple of episodes we shot over 2 days. That's if we had a mission that was further away, or the opening or the closing. So that was the sort of schedule, really. Duty of care wise, of course, massive on every show that we make, and especially this, because we knew it would be an intense psychological game. We didn't know how the cast would react, especially the pressure on the traitors, and then even the faithful going, I don't know who's lying to me and who's not. So that was a massive thing for us. We had a big welfare team that would speak to the cast every day. We had floor producers that were there for editorial, but then we had a welfare team that were there purely removed from the editorial, that were there to talk to the cast. We had a psychologist on site, and we scheduled conversations in with the psych as well every morning.
And it's worth noting that we wouldn't have put any of our cast in that situation if throughout all of our checks prior we didn't feel they were robust enough to play the game. And of course there's going to be moments of high emotion, but we wanted to make, especially our traitors that we chose as well, we needed to make sure that they were robust enough to play the game and get through the game. And that was our welfares, as Toni said. Our checks are so important, and we take it very seriously, and likewise brought that through to location and post-production as well. All of the cast are still best mates with all of our welfare team as well. We ensure that there's a really strong relationship there, and throughout the TX period as well, always making sure that they're okay, offering psych support if they so wish it. That's very important to us, and we didn't underestimate with a psychological game like this that we needed to make sure that was there as well. Yeah.
And did you encounter any technical challenges, or even any kind of more maybe moral dilemmas when shooting this?
I know one already, straight away, our first mission. The Scottish weather. Oh my, you can plan for every scenario possible, but if the Scottish weather decides that all of a sudden there's going to be a little kind of tornado-y thing that happened. So we were about to, this was for the BBC, we were about to film The Burning Beasts. I don't know if you guys remember that one with the big beast blowing up at the end of the mission. We had our crews down there from the crack of dawn, getting it all set up, production villages, everything getting ready, and we were about to leave, and we got a call going, guys, I don't think you should leave yet. The whole production village is blown away, because it just so happened that at that moment a little kind of storm had happened, and you just blew it all away. So by the time we'd got down there, we had jeeps kind of on their sides in trenches. It was a complete washout for them. And we saw the kind of carnage that had happened, but then the skies went completely bright again. And we kind of turned up going, what are you talking about? What have you been moaning about? But yeah, it was a bit of a delay that day. And that was one of the occasions where we were thankful that we actually shot our first episode over 2 days because we were going to Loch Glass, which is a bit further away from the castle, and there was a bit of delay in us starting that one, just so that we could get everything back in action. And actually, we had to adapt that mission on the day. Initially, the guys that were rowing were going to go over to the other side of the loch, completely over to the other side of the loch, and row back. And our health and safety team, who are so brilliant, and we've obviously got the best in the business who work on this, were like, no, it's too wavy. There's no way that they're going to be able to do that. So we had to adapt the gameplay with literally like 20 minutes before we were about to start filming it. So it's all best plans you can put in place, but it's also making sure that you can adapt. And we find that on any kind of reality show that you do, whether it's story or whatever all things, you need good plans of what you want to do format, but it's also adapting to whether that's external factors like the weather or whether it is story things that you need to adapt to as well. So being able to think on your feet is very much something important in the Scottish weather.
Definitely. Just being so remote as well. I remember at the start, normally, you have we have Matt Weeks as our set designer, is incredible, our production designer. But you can be tweaking things until the last moment, until that cast walking, oh, can we just get another rug there? Can we just do that? And it was, no, you can't, because we can't get it here. So make the decisions early, and then we'll do our best. But that was being remote was probably quite nice for him, actually. So we couldn't just go, can we change that at the last minute? So that was a challenge.
And BBC One took a really unusual approach to scheduling the Traitors, which was, if you're unaware, they dropped the first 3 episodes on iPlayer. The first 3 episodes went out linear Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then from there on out, the rest of the series was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, linear at 9 p.m. I mean, it worked on me.
Yeah, good.
But it was a very unusual approach for them. A big gamble, and the time kind of coming into that Christmas period as well, when it's not a very festive format.
And the World Cup going on.
Exactly. So did you feel kind of you mentioned, Sarah, earlier on, making kind of unscripted TV feel more kind of like event TV.
Yeah.
Did you feel any pressure when the BBC revealed that scheduling? Did you guys think, oh, we really need to deliver now more than, what was the reaction when the BBC unveiled this?
Massive pressure. We were like, oh, okay. They really believe in this, okay. But it also gave us such confidence as well that, I mean, we always knew we've got something special on our hands here, but you never quite know. With the first series, you only have one chance. We've all worked in telly a long time where some things you absolutely love just don't quite set fire when it goes on television. So, we can only credit the BBC have been so incredibly supportive. Saida and Neil, who are our commissioners, they have always had such faith in this series, and for them to say, you know what, we're going big. They, especially for BBC, who've not really delved into this genre that much at all, really. I think obviously The Apprentice started 15 years ago or so, but there's not really been a big reality show for them, for a very long time. So for them to be like, no, we are going for this, we're going hard on this, and for them to have that confidence, and we're so happy, and massive credit to them. And I think, as I said, you only have one chance at a first series. So for them to be like, okay, this is how we're going to try and attempt to hook everybody in. 3 episodes a week, which I think was really smart, actually, because I know so many people who, when a reality show's on 6 times, 7 times a week, if you miss those first few episodes, it's so hard to then catch up and then feel like you can still be part of the conversation. And what I thought was really smart on this was 3 felt like quite a magic number, essentially, so that it felt like event television. You don't want to miss the conversation, but you had time to catch up. Yeah. And I think, our first couple of weeks, the viewing figures were, we were really pleased with, but they were modest. And then it got to about the 3rd week, and it felt like a lot of people, oh, have you been watching Traitors? Have you been watching? And it felt like we got a lot of people through word of mouth coming to that third week. So then by the end, the last week, the fourth week, it really felt like it was a invitation to view. It was making and then just watching Twitter afterwards. It's been so rare to kind of see that coming alive, I think, for such a long time. And we were rushing home to watch it, and I've
seen
been
it
in the
8
edit
times.
with it for like 5 months. I know every single word, but even I was rushing home to watch it so I could see the conversation happening live at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think we are such mega fans of the show ourselves and reality in general. So, and it's felt very special that we've been able to go along with the ride.
They took
on
a big
this.
chance. They took a really big chance.
But it bore out because, as you said, the word of mouth just... And, it's so unusual in this day and age of kind of streaming for unscripted to have those water cooler moments.
Completely.
And for it to feel different. And I think it is just that it's a game, and it doesn't matter who you back. If you're a Traitor fan or a Faithful, there's no right or wrong. And I think that was really interesting. And people could see how they'd maybe play the game. We had our sort of reality moments like the breakfast, but that round table, honestly, when we were filming that, it was just electric. Every single time we'd be sat in the gallery watching it, just going, this is great. And it was way longer, obviously, than what made it onto the TV. But
we had crew who had just finished their shifts, and they wouldn't go home because they were wanting to watch it and just kind of stick around so they could see what the result of the round table was.
Yeah.
And that's not often that happens when you've got soundies and cameramen wanting to stay around to finish watching what happened. So,
well, we've unfortunately come to the end of our session. I have one more question, final question. For Series 2, which is coming up this year, can we put a moratorium on the phrase 100% faithful?
No, that's fine. That's fine. No problem.
Well, Sarah, Toni, thank you so much for telling us all about the Traitors this morning. Audience, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you learned about the Traitors as much as you wanted about the Traitors this morning. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay at MPTS.
Thank you.